What's up, everybody? It's Robert Rule of Two Review, and today it's the Xbox One's fastest price drop in history. Let's get this thing started. All right, well, color me completely shocked. This is the thing that we all thought might happen. A lot of people wanted it to happen, but I kind of really didn't think that it was going to happen anytime soon, if at all. But holy freaking crap, it turned out to be true. It was just announced today that Microsoft will be dropping the price of the Xbox One to $399, and of course in doing so is removing the Kinect from the system, from being bundled with the system. This is a complete mind blow to me. I am so shocked and surprised in many ways, good and bad actually, that this is actually happening. There's tons of points on both sides, so I'm gonna kind of just get into my feelings about it. Okay, well, obviously this is happening because the Xbox One hasn't been performing as well compared to directly the PlayStation 4. And apparently that's been enough of an issue that they felt that they needed to do this to be able to be competitive with the competition and be, bring itself to a price parity, if you will, with that system specifically, because they are both now going to be selling for $399. And that is really great for Microsoft in a lot of ways because I think that it is going to help the system, but there's so many concepts that comes from this. Honestly, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to organize all my thoughts. I probably should have taken notes before I made this video because this is a really, really big deal. I think I'm going to touch on, I'm going to touch on the good things first. Because I like Microsoft, even though of the three companies, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they are my third favorite of the three. I still like them. I've enjoyed the Xbox almost ever since the brand first existed with the original Xbox. It took me a while. I was a little bit more into the competitive nature and the picking sides aspect of gaming back then. Something that is still incredibly common today, thanks to the ridiculousness of the internet, but I've actually completely dropped that out of my life. I no longer pick sides and think one is better than the other and whatever. Just as long as people are out there trying and providing good systems with good gaming experiences, that's all I care about. So yes, I have a hierarchy of who I like, Nintendo followed by Sony, followed by Microsoft, but I still like all three. I think the Wii U is great. I think the PS4, the PlayStation brand is great. I think the Xbox brand is great. They're all great, so that's fine. So I like Microsoft and I want them to be successful. And absolutely, this is going to be devastatingly huge for the system to be able to do this. The PlayStation 4 is kind of well documented as being the overall more powerful system. Granted, not by a whole heck of a lot, I don't think, but it is more powerful. It's been also very well documented and publicized that all of the games that have been coming out on both systems or all three systems, which by the way is most of the games for both the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, as I've lamented on in our previous video, but all these games that have come out on all the systems, they're running better on the PlayStation 4 than the Xbox One version. There's a lot of 60 frames per second games that aren't 60 frames per second on the Xbox One, or not a lot, but a couple. A lot of talk about native 1080p on the PS4, whereas not possible on the Xbox One. Even the Xbox One's flagship title, which was Titanfall, released, and it's a gorgeous and smooth running game, but it's apparently released at like 720 and then they're going to shoot for 940 or something. Like, the game is not even going to be running in 1080. And it should be noted that I personally don't think that that's that big of a freaking deal, but people do, and it becomes a conversation that people have, and it becomes fodder that different fanboys and websites and blogs and industry insiders use against one system or another. It becomes this ammunition that people can use to fuel the console war, the fight between fans, this system is better than that system kind of argument, which is really stupid shit in my opinion. I know it's never going to go away and it's always going to be relevant, and maybe a lot of you watching actually care about those kinds of things. And if you do, then hey, that's what it is. Everyone has their own thing. For me, I will always say that is stupid. Who gives a crap? One system does some things good, another system does another things good, more things good, and then another system does other different things good. Like, that's the way we should look at things. But sadly, we don't. Only 1% of the population maybe looks at things the way I do, which is in that kind of positive light. So anyway, the point is, with the price difference here, we know that regardless of the difference in power, that we're going to be getting systems that are selling for the same price. They're overall pretty comparable. And people don't really like the Kinect overall. I have not experienced the Kinect 2.0. I have not held an Xbox One controller in my hand. I have not seen a game running in front of me, which is all really very sad news, actually, I'm realizing. So I haven't really experienced it myself, but it's so fairly obvious that people don't really like the Kinect. And I'm going to touch on some of the points about the Kinect in a minute, because that's a huge part of this conversation. But I will say that because people don't like it, and because it created this huge $100 barrier, that it is a good thing that Microsoft is dropping it, obviously, because I think it is absolutely going to convince people to pick up the system. Now, there are a lot of things that I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear me say that I think are not good about this. And they're very conceptual and contextual with how things are happening in the industry, especially in the console space with all three next-gen consoles. But, regardless of those things, before I really touch on why I think it's bad, I have to still leave it with the sentiment that it is a good thing in the sense that it is going to convince people to pick up an Xbox One. I know and believe that the Xbox One is a quality machine and that it is especially going to be quality over time when some really good games have started to come out for, Same with the PS4. These systems need a little bit of time to stew, just like the Wii U needed, and eventually all these games are going to come and we're all going to love both the systems and it's going to be fantastic, PS4 has obviously been selling really, really well despite not having good games to play, so they're really doing okay. But the Xbox One hasn't had a lot of games to play, and it sold strongly out of the gate, kind of just like the Wii U did, but then it hit this wall of really not having anything to play and people not really picking it up, and now it's been doing pretty poor, even after Titanfall launched, which is too bad. So I think that the system should be seen as positive. I want it to be successful, and I do think that this is absolutely going to help, devastatingly so. So, those are some of the obvious points, on why this is a good thing. You drop the price of a system, hopefully more people are going to pick it up, The crazy thing, again, is that this is, and I feel bad for Microsoft, I'll use this to segue here, I feel bad for Microsoft, this is the fastest price drop in console history. So what does it mean that this is the fastest price drop in console history? Well, it means that the Xbox One really was struggling maybe a little bit more than we even thought or realized. It's pretty unprecedented that I have it happen only within the first 6-7 months or so of a system's launch. Now, it has happened a lot in the past before, like with the Sega Saturn and things like that. I think the Dreamcast. And of course, most recently, the Wii U did drop its price within the first year of its launch, but not nearly this fast. And so it's really insane to think that the system and Microsoft felt that they had to do this. So now I have a bunch to talk about on this topic. I'm going to try to keep my thoughts pretty focused, but obviously we knew coming into this is going to be a long video. I always have a lot to talk about, and this is a pretty big deal. So I think that this is indicative of a larger problem. And this is the part that I really want you guys to pay attention to and kind of discern how it is you feel about this compared to how I feel. I'm not trying to tell anyone, I never in any of my videos am trying to tell anyone how to feel. I just like to present how I feel, and then you can determine if you agree or not and hopefully spark a conversation. So if you disagree, that's fine. To me, like I said, this is indicative of a much, much larger problem. The Xbox One, in the grand scheme of things, if the PlayStation 4 hadn't released at the same time and wasn't selling so much better than anyone even thought it was and wasn't breaking all these records, I don't think that anyone, including Microsoft, would be looking down on their own numbers and their own sales and performance of the system. They wouldn't have, because it's been doing average. It's been doing how any system kind of would within its own first couple of months of release and its own, mediocre success. Like, it's been doing fine. But the problem is we have created this culture nowadays in this gimme kind of world, especially with the bullshit that the internet brings to people's opinions and the way news comes at us, that it's created this sort of weird, skewed version of reality where not being better than the PlayStation 4 means that everyone, including Microsoft, probably saw the Xbox One as an abysmal failure in only 6 months of life. That is completely fucking insane. Like, it is F-bomb worthy, fucking insane. That is so stupid. How dare the industry and gamers and people within the industry let this become a thing? I mean, Microsoft, you guys, you've done okay. You've done all right in the first couple of months. You are in the first 1% of your system's entire probable lifespan. relax. You can calm down. You don't have to, metaphorically throw in the towel so soon and feel like you had to do this just because you were selling not quite as well as the PlayStation 4. Like, who gives a shit how well the PlayStation 4 is selling? Who flippin' cares? It doesn't have to matter to you. Just like with Nintendo, it doesn't have to matter to you. Nintendo, very brilliantly, even though they've been having some financial issues, they still ultimately have been very smart with how they've positioned themselves over the last many years with their last console and now the Wii U. And that they don't, even though, yes, everyone's in competition with each other, they very smartly position themselves to not still be in direct competition with the other two guys. And, enough in the sense that if they can see their own success once the system starts to pick up in sales, which it has been doing and will only continue to do so, it's going to be seen as successful. It's going to make them money, I think, in the long run. And that's going to be fine. Now, Microsoft, I recognize you're in a little bit different of a position. You sort of have positioned yourself directly in competition, most directly with Sony and the PlayStation 4 and vice versa. So I get that you sort of have to see yourself as, we have to do better than the PlayStation. We have to do better than the PlayStation. And Sony's saying the same thing. We have to do better than Microsoft. We have to do better than Microsoft, which I get. Everyone, competition is competition. I get it. Everyone wants to be number one. I get that. That is important. And it does have a place in the industry. Yes. But that aside, if you're just successful in your own right and you're not so goddamn worried about what the other person is doing, you can just relax and be like, well, our Xbox One might not have sold 7 million units in 6 months, but we sold 4.5, and that's pretty darn good. So, hey, awesome, good for us. Let's just keep on making our system. Let's start finally releasing and showing some good games, because games are what everyone wants for their gaming systems. And then you're going to do fucking all right. Who cares what the other guy is doing? I mean, I'm totally in rant territory, which I never do. If you've been following my channel, you've probably noticed it is so rare that I rant like this. But this to me is rant worthy because I hate that the industry and gamers have created this culture. It's stupid. The Xbox One has been doing fine. And so because they feel like their hand has been forced, because if we're not number one, we're shit, then they've dropped the price of their system. Now, let me flip the script again, because I'm very good at doing that. I am now probably going to buy an Xbox One because they've dropped the price. So, you can see that as a little bit hypocritical, I guess, and that's fine. But I don't really think that, there's any sort of integrity being compromised when I say that. I don't think that Microsoft should have felt forced to drop the price of the Xbox One just to compete with Sony, because they didn't need to be competing with Sony like this so early in the console's lifespan. That being said, the $500 Kinect bundled Xbox One still wasn't appealing to myself. Even though I wanted an Xbox, I didn't really want to spend the $500 on it. However, now that there's going to be a $400 version without the Kinect, now, yes, I do want one. And it goes back to my earlier point where this is still obviously going to create more sales for the Xbox One. I'm going to be a shining example of that. If someone who is a Microsoft fan, an Xbox fan, but really wasn't into buying the $500 Xbox One, but now I am into buying the $400 Xbox One. Now, this also leads to my next point about this whole concept, which is the Kinect. Let's talk about the Kinect for a minute, because that's a really big deal. Okay, the Kinect. Boy, oh boy, what a conundrum that whole thing is. Now, conceptually, the Kinect is something that I appreciate. I like any company and any console that does something to think outside of the box and to bring unique new experiences to us. I think that that's freaking fantastic. That's why I thought the Wii was great. It's why I think the Wii U is great. It's why I think the Dreamcast did some really cool things back in the day. Really, Nintendo has been a company that's tried that many, many times. Sony has tried it a couple times, even though the Move was a straight copy, almost infringingly so of the Wii. I still appreciate that they tried to do something, that's fine. The PlayStation I don't really care about, but it's nice that they've tried to do things with that. And so a lot of different companies, they try things on occasion. And the Kinect, the original Kinect, the concept is still kind of there. It's very sound in theory. So I appreciate the idea of it. I think that gaming can always be doing a lot of cool new things. And provided that you deliver on it and you do it well, awesome, then bring it on. So the Kinect, coming back to that, I think is the right idea. And I want to be excited, and I appreciate that Microsoft had this vision of some whole new way to interact with your console and wanted to bring this to us, by bundling it with the system. That's awesome. Now, here's the thing though. I'm not into Kinect 2.0. I'm not into the Kinect with the Xbox One, and I'm going to tell you why. And that is because it has had all but nothing to do with gaming. Now, okay, I got to really focus here because I have thoughts on so many different subjects when it comes to this. And this is all, by the way, ultimately in defense of Microsoft and the Xbox One. I am not here, you've probably noticed this, I'm not here to be down on the Xbox One. I am in support of Microsoft and the Xbox One, and I think that it sucks that all of these things are having to sort of happen to them, and they have felt forced to do these things. So, again, it comes to the Kinect and the Xbox One. I just think that they haven't really shown people why the Xbox One is important to gaming. And it's sort of the initial problem with the Xbox One as a whole. The Kinect really has only been used for all of its TV and video and UI purposes, which makes me wonder. Okay, I can't come to that point yet. I'm going to stick on this one point before I start tangenting in 5 different directions. So the thing is, I would believe in the Kinect and be excited to have one and be willing to pay $500 for the Kinect bundled Xbox One if the Kinect was being shown to be useful for gaming. However, it's not. The Xbox One is built around this whole user interface that is, you can talk to your system, you can go between internet and game and TV and cable and DVD video on the fly just with your voice and do all these cool things and use motion control gestures to, browse the internet and move through your menus and do all these things. Now that's cool in and of itself, fine. However, none of that stuff, none of it is appealing to me in my gaming console. The end. The end. Some people may feel opposite, and that's fine. Everyone has a right to their own opinion. For me, I don't want all that stuff if it's not going to enhance my gameplay. I am not going to buy any one goddamn console for Hulu and ESPN and internet browsing and all this other bullshit that is really what the Xbox One was about. That stuff is not interesting to me. I get that it has its place in a lot of people's homes, and I get that a lot of people like that and will use it. I will never use it. I don't even have cable in my home. Broadcast television, GTFO. It has no business in my life. Other than when sports are happening, because I do follow sports, so you'd think, well, Rob, why wouldn't you use ESPN? I'm not going to do that. I just like watching the NFL and the NHL when it's happening, when the seasons are happening. That's it. I'll use regular cable TV for that. But actual broadcast television, like real cable, I'm not paying dick diddly for any of that. I would never ever dream of buying a $500 Xbox for those purposes. They make no sense to me. So enhancing the purposes of the Xbox One that I don't care about is why I don't care about the Kinect. Again, if gaming was being benefited from it, like I think the gamepad for the Wii U benefits gaming, then that would be a totally different story and I'd be on board with the Kinect. But it's been obvious that that's just not the case. Like no one is going to be making it's so obvious that no really good developer is going to be making games trying to utilize the Kinect for the Xbox One. They're not. Mass Effect 4 isn't going to use it. Grand Theft Auto 6 isn't going to use it. Dragon Age 3 isn't going to use it. Halo isn't going to use it. Like none of this stuff is going to be used. So I don't really care about the Kinect. And because of that, that's why I can safely say it's the $400 Xbox One that does entice me. That is the system that I want to buy because the Kinect hasn't been shown to be anything useful to me. I just don't believe in buying consoles for anything other than gaming. That's how I'm always going to feel. That's part of the reason that Nintendo keeps me a fan because A, I think they make the best first party games. B, they try to think outside the box and they deliver, i.e. the gamepad on the Wii U. And C, they really make their focus of their business model and of their consoles gaming related first. It does a couple other things, and I use Netflix on all my systems, so Netflix is one good example that I do use. But in general, Nintendo is like, here's a gaming box. It doesn't even play fucking DVDs, and that actually I kind of like because they're trying to say, who gives a crap about DVDs? Use your DVD player. Here's our gaming system for your video games. That's the way it should be. And Microsoft, you remove the Kinect and you release the Kinectless Xbox One. You're giving me a gaming console only, and I love it. That's what I want. I cannot wait to give you my $400 for a $400 Xbox One. So that is, I haven't even said this yet, 18 minutes in. June 9th, by the way. June 9th is the day that the $399 Xbox One is going to be released. So pretty cool. The price drop begins in literally less than a month. It's like 3 weeks away, 3.5 weeks away, right before E3. Actually, wow. The first day of E3 press conferences is actually the day that happens. So very smart, good publicity there. But the last topic I want to touch on, and this is sort of some confusion I have here, is when it comes to the Xbox One without the Kinect. Now, we know that they've always said that the Xbox One is going to have the Kinect because it needs the Kinect. And I think that a lot of people have sort of forgotten what that means or maybe never really understood what that means. But that comes down to, like I said, the UI for the Xbox One, the user interface. The Xbox One has been built around relying on the Kinect, its motion controlled capabilities and its voice sensing capabilities to maneuver around the system, the menus, the interface of the Xbox One. It needed that stuff. It was built, same with the internet browsing and, the ability to do voice chat and streaming, video streaming of yourself because the Kinect has a camera on it. All that stuff was integrated into the skeletal DNA of the Xbox One. And so that's kind of why I thought, even with all the rumors and people saying they should do it, I was like, nah, I don't see that happening for maybe a really, really, really long time. Because the Xbox One, everything that they've told us is it literally needs it to function and to operate. They built the system so that it required it to work. However, I can either only assume that that isn't the case because they are now able to release the Xbox One without the Kinect, or maybe they have completely rebuilt the Xbox One architecture, or at least the UI for the system itself to no longer require it. And I mean, whichever one of those is the case, again, I'm obviously very happy about that because it means I now have a reason to want to pick up an Xbox One. I think that that's going to be really, really pretty cool. And so I digress, and I'm starting to calm down and wind myself down from this crazy video and all this ranting and everything I did. I've been very heated on this video because this is actually really passionate to me. I feel like the ideals that I was trying to get across and presenting my opinion about the industry and gamers and the way things are perceived and the way people within the industry feel things have to be done, this message was actually really important for me. And I think that's why I got so heated. So in now calming down and stepping back, I think the most important thing that I would want anyone who watches this video to take away from this is that it's okay to be number 2 and number 3. And it's okay to not be the number 1 guy, provided that you just do okay for yourself. It's a message I've been trying to get across kind of ever since I started the channel here, and I brought it up on several videos, and it's really come to a head with today's announcement, with this idea of what's happening with Microsoft and the Xbox One, and dropping the Kinect and dropping the price unprecedentedly so fast. It's a very, very big deal, this news and this announcement. And obviously I took it to, I think a lot of different places that I'm willing to bet maybe a lot of other people wouldn't take it or wouldn't even think to take it. And I just hope that it either makes sense to you, or if it doesn't make sense to you, that's fine. Hopefully it just gets your head thinking in a different way and the gears turning in ways when analyzing the industry and the different companies we love, analyzing it in a different way. And I feel like these are the important things, the important questions and aspects that we need to look at when it comes to the industry. I want to inspire these sort of debates, these thoughts, and these conversations amongst my other fellow gamer, which is all of you guys. So I hope that a lot of this made sense. And, to Microsoft, I wish you guys a lot of luck. I like you. I believe in you, even though you've made tons of mistakes. This whole crazy roller coaster ride of the Xbox One has probably been really difficult for you guys. It's been nothing but, controversial, groundbreaking news after news, with everything that they first announced and then their reversal, and then the Xbox launches and then everyone hates the Kinect, and then they drop the Kinect and drop the price and change it, go back again on everything they previously said about the Xbox One. This is all very unprecedented. I mean, the Xbox One, in the annals of history, in 20 years, when we look back on it, it's going to be one of the most unique situations we ever will remember going through. So this is basically history in the making, guys. Remember that. Think about that when these kinds of things are happening, because this is a really, really big deal. All this stuff is uncharted territory when it comes to gamers in the gaming industry. Alrighty, and so that is it for everything today, for all the Microsoft and Xbox One and crazy Kinect news for today. Crazy heated video. Hopefully you guys like it. Don't forget, as always, if you like what I'm doing, you can subscribe to Rule of Two Review, and you can like and share the video and share your comments about all of this kooky news below. And so thanks for tuning in. As always, I will catch you guys next time.